A black woman was harassed by a cop outside a cafe until her necklace was revealed. You fit the description. Those 4 words, tossed out like trash on a windy street, were enough to turn Evelyn Grant's quiet Sunday morning into something ugly, dangerous, and deeply familiar. She had just ordered her chai latte. It was 9:17 a.m. The cafe was still sleepy, the barista humming some Otis Redding song behind the counter. Evelyn, dressed in a soft gray sweater and dark slacks, stood outside near a sidewalk table, checking her phone and smiling at a photo her daughter had sent of her grandson's crooked tooth. She looked up once at the sun filtering through the trees, then again when she felt it shift. That subtle change in the air. Astare. A presence. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can I see some ID?" The voice came from a man in uniform. Mid-40s. White. Police badge on his chest. Mirrored sunglasses over his eyes. He hadn't introduced himself. Hadn't said what she'd done. Just walked up, hand on his belt like he already knew the ending to a scene she hadn't even agreed to be in. Evelyn blinked. "I'm sorry. You fit the description," he repeated. "We've had reports of someone loitering in the area, possibly casing shops." She laughed short and incredulous. "Casing shops? Officer, I'm standing here waiting for my drink." He didn't laugh back. "I'm going to need you to provide identification." She reached slowly into her bag, every movement deliberate, as though she were underwater. Not because she was guilty, but because she understood the script. She'd seen too many versions of this play, knew how fast it could turn from misunderstanding to obituary. "I'm Dr. Evelyn Grant," she said calmly, handing him her license. "I'm a retired neurosurgeon. I've lived in this neighborhood for 12 years. He looked at the card, but didn't really read it. "Got any weapons on you?" "I'm holding a phone and a receipt," she said, voice tight now. "Is that standard procedure at coffee shops?" People were starting to watch. A young couple with their golden retriever slowed their walk. An older man in line at the cafe peered over his glasses. But no one said anything. They just watched, as if it were a show. The officer circled her slowly, then stopped. "What's under your sweater?" he asked. Evelyn's mouth went dry. "Excuse me? Bulge around your collar. Might be something concealed." She touched her collarbone instinctively. "It's a necklace. A gift from my husband. May he rest in peace." "Lift the sweater." "No." He stepped closer. "Ma'am, I'm giving you a lawful order." "No," she repeated, firmer now. "This is harassment." He reached out, 2 fingers aimed toward the edge of her sweater. That's when the chain slipped free. The sun caught it just right. The light hit the gold in a way that made everyone stop for a beat. It was a U.S. Army medical insignia golden caduceus on a circular pendant. "Ashaun darnet kulakshio. Evelyn an Moldova." The officer froze. His fingers, now inches from her skin, dropped to his side. A man near the cafe gasped. "You're military?" the officer asked, suddenly quieter. Evelyn didn't answer. She stared at him, letting the shame bloom where it belonged. Not in her. In him. Another woman stepped forward, now a white woman in a business suit. She raised her phone. "I recorded all of that," she said flatly. "You harassed her. Touched her. Without cause. She's a veteran. This is going viral today." The officer stepped back, sputtering something about miscommunication and standard checks. Evelyn turned to the cafe door, where her drink was now ready and abandoned on the counter. She picked it up, hand trembling just slightly. She didn't say another word, but the damage had been done. That night, the video was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, national news by midnight. Hashtags lit up. Veteran while black. Colonel Grant. Respect black women. I don't fit your description. By Monday morning, her front porch was flooded with reporters. By Tuesday, the mayor issued a statement. By Wednesday, the police department suspended the officer pending investigation. But none of it gave her back what had been stolen. Not just dignity, but that fleeting, fragile sense of safety she'd nurtured in her quiet little corner of the city. Evelyn stayed silent for days. She didn't do interviews. She ignored emails from advocacy groups. She declined every talk show offer. Until Thursday night, when a letter arrived by mail. No stamp, no return address. Just her name, handwritten in blue ink. Inside was a single page. Dr. Grant, I was there. I saw everything. I didn't speak up, and I should have. I'm a rookie. 3rd week. They told us to stay quiet, follow protocol. But what happened to you wasn't protocol. It was racism. It was fear. And it wasn't the first time he's done it. If you're willing to fight, I want to help. A friend. She read it twice. Then she turned on the porch light and sat with it, watching the darkness beyond her gate. The city had pulled her into its spotlight. Now was asking for more. She thought about the young girls who had sent her messages, black girls in ROTC uniforms, nursing students, barristers thanking her for not backing down, for standing in dignity, for wearing that necklace with pride. She thought about her late husband, who had worn the same insignia into 3 tours overseas and died, believing this country was still worth something. And she thought about the man who had stared into her face and still only seen a threat. That night, Evelyn Grant decided she wouldn't just survive what happened. She would make sure it meant something. She would take her place not only in the story, but in the fight to rewrite it. The battle had only begun. Evelyn didn't go back to the cafe. Not that week. Not the next. Not even for a quick morning walk past it. She couldn't explain it exactly. Something about how small the place looked now. How familiar chairs and cups had become haunted by a memory that wouldn't sit still. But she didn't hide, either. Instead, Evelyn Grant, colonel, surgeon, black woman, widow, woke up at dawn, tied her hair, and began making calls. The rookie officer who had sent her the letter never left a name, but with some gentle networking through old colleagues in the VA, she found someone who knew who it might be. Officer Daniel Rivas, 26, first-generation Mexican-American, recent academy graduate, barely 6 weeks on the force. He agreed to meet. They chose a park. Neutral. Quiet. She wore civilian clothes. No uniform. No medals. Rivas arrived nervous, glancing around like someone expecting to be watched. I didn't think you'd actually reach out, he said. Evelyn offered a tight smile. I didn't think a cop would write a letter like that. He chuckled, awkward. I guess we're both surprising each other. She studied him, nervous eyes, posture too stiff for comfort. Not performative, just scared. I want the truth, Officer Rivas, she said. About Brenner. Rivas hesitated. He's got a reputation. Not officially, of course. His record's clean. But the veterans know. The black officers know. He targets people. Makes legal stops that ride the line. And internal affairs? Rivas shook his head. They bury it. He's got friends upstairs. Been on the force 23 years. They say he's old school, but what they mean is he knows how to skirt the system. Evelyn felt the chill crawl up her spine. How many complaints? 6. That I know of. All unsubstantiated. Most of them were scared to follow through. She folded her arms. Well, I'm not. That same week, Evelyn filed a formal misconduct complaint not just against Officer Brenner, but against the department's culture of silence. Her statement was public, direct, named names, detailed every second of her harassment with calm, devastating clarity. And the story exploded again. Not just another viral video now, but a veteran fighting back. A doctor, a colonel, a woman who'd saved lives in war zones only to be humiliated in her own neighborhood. Cable news called her a hero. Online trolls called her a liar. And in the quiet middle of it all, Evelyn just kept going. She testified in front of the Civilian Review Board, her voice steady. She met with students at a local HBCU, reminding them, you don't need to be perfect to deserve respect. You just need to be human. She sat with a mother whose teenage son had been harassed by the same officer months earlier and convinced her to file a report. Within a month, for more women, 2 black, 1 Latina, 1 elderly white woman came forward. Different incidents. Same man. Same pattern. Officer Brenner was placed on administrative leave. But Evelyn wasn't done. She wanted systemic change. Not just punishment. Not just headlines. She met with civil rights lawyers. One of them, a young woman named Zoe Livingston, had watched the video of the necklace reveal and cried. I've seen too many black women humiliated, Zoe told her. But I've never seen one humiliate a man with just her existence. Evelyn laughed. It wasn't the necklace. It was the truth it carried. Together, they began building a case. not just against Brenner, but against the department's long-standing failure to discipline him. They combed records, interviewed former officers, uncovered years of red flags ignored. Meanwhile, Evelyn's story sparked a campaign. Local organizers printed her image standing tall, caduceus necklace gleaming in shirts and posters. The phrase, "I don't fit your description," became a rallying cry. High schoolers wore it on pins. Baristas wrote it on tip jars. Someone painted a mural of her across from the cafe, half her face in uniform, half in civilian clothes, eyes staring forward like a challenge. But not everyone was cheering. One night, Evelyn came home to find her mailbox open, the flag bent backward, and a note stuffed inside. One word, in thick black marker, enough. She didn't flinch. She installed cameras. She bought a second lock. And then, as if answering fear with resolve, she went on local TV. The anchor was polite, clearly intimidated. He began with, "Dr. Grant, you've been through quite an ordeal." "I've been through worse," she said. "Tell me what do you want?" She looked into the camera. "I want us to stop pretending racism wears hoods and shouts slurs. Sometimes it wears a badge. Sometimes it drinks coffee next to you. Sometimes it's in your silence." The city held its breath. So did the department. 2 weeks later, the DA opened a formal investigation. The chief resigned. And Officer Brenner, who had not been seen publicly since the video, released a statement through his lawyer. He blamed stress, claimed confusion, expressed regret if his actions had caused discomfort. Discomfort. Evelyn stared at the word in the article. Discomfort was a stone in your shoe. What he had caused was degradation, shame, trauma. So she did what she knew best. She wrote. Late into the night, candle flickering beside her, Evelyn began penning an op-ed. Not a rant, not a list of demands, but a love letter to dignity. They say I didn't look like a veteran. I say, what does dignity look like? They say I made them uncomfortable. I say good. Discomfort is the first sign of change. She submitted it to 5 newspapers. All 5 published it. The largest ran it front page, above the fold. By the time the disciplinary board convened in June, the public was watching. Pressure was building. And Evelyn Grantcom, eloquent, relentless, walked into that hearing room wearing the same necklace, the same sweater, and the same expression from the day it all began. She sat down, and she spoke. For every black woman ever accused of being too loud when she spoke up, too angry, too suspicious, too present, she spoke for them, and she never once raised her voice. The room was silent when Evelyn finished speaking. No applause, no murmurs, just stillness. Even Officer Brenner, sitting stiffly 2 rows behind the table, flanked by his attorney and a union rep, kept his eyes down. Gone was the swagger. Gone was the entitlement. What remained was something colder, smaller. The board took a recess. Evelyn walked out into the hallway, where journalists swarmed, but she kept moving. She wasn't there for headlines anymore. She was there for justice. And that, she had learned, moved slowly. Weeks passed, then a month. The city simmered. Articles appeared daily. National outlets picked up the story again, now calling it the necklace case. Law students dissected it in class. Civil rights historians called Evelyn's stance a modern-day Rosa Parks moment. And quietly, behind the scenes, real policy talks began. A proposal for a civilian oversight committee with actual authority. Mandatory anti-bias training for all officers backed by law, not just good intentions. And a retirement incentive program to quietly nudge out officers like Brenner who had outlasted their integrity. But Evelyn didn't want quiet retirements. She wanted accountability. When the board reconvened, they announced their findings. Officer Brenner had violated multiple department policies, including use of authority without cause, harassment, and racial profiling. He was terminated. No pension, no back pay. The union threatened appeal. They called it a witch hunt, claimed the department had caved to public pressure. Evelyn didn't respond, because something bigger had already happened, something irreversible. People had woken up, not just to what happened to her, but to what had been happening all along to others. The young man tackled outside the library because he wore a hoodie. The elderly black couple stopped for a broken taillight that didn't exist. The teenage girl handcuffed at school for talking back. They all came forward now, not as victims, as witnesses. Evelyn became something she had never intended, a symbol. And with that came invitations, panels, roundtables, awards. She turned down most of them. What she accepted was a speaking engagement at her alma mater, Howard University. The auditorium was packed. She walked to the podium, caduceus necklace glinting under the lights. She didn't bring notes. "I never wanted to be famous," she began, her voice calm. "I wanted peace. I wanted my coffee." A ripple of quiet laughter. But the truth is, peace doesn't come free. It's not handed to you, especially not if you're black, especially not if you're a woman. You have to claim it, defend it. Every day. She paused, scanning the room of eager young faces. I stood outside a cafe, and someone saw a threat, not because of what I did, but because of who I am. And when I said Nauhan, I refused a shrink that was seen as defiance. A deeper silence now. That's what racism does. It teaches the world that your dignity is dangerous, that your confidence is criminal. She leaned forward. "But I'm here to tell you something. You don't owe this world your silence. You owe it your truth. And if your truth shakes the ground, let it shake." They stood when she finished. Not one person remained seated. Later that night, Evelyn sat in her hotel room, shoes off, legs curled beneath her. Her daughter called. "You were incredible, Mama." "I was honest," Evelyn said. "Sometimes, that's all we have." She heard her grandson in the background, laughing at something on TV. "You coming home soon?" her daughter asked. Evelyn smiled. "Soon. But first, there was one last place she needed to go." The next morning, she returned to the cafe. Same corner, same trees, same 9 a.m. sun. The barest a different kid now froze when he saw her. Then his face lit up. "Dr. Grant," he said, "it's an honor." She nodded gently. "I'd like a chai latte, please. Extra cinnamon." He smiled wide. "It's on us." Evelyn waited outside. Same spot where everything had unraveled weeks ago. Except now it felt reclaimed. A woman approached her. Black, maybe late 30s in scrubs. "Are you her?" she asked softly. Evelyn turned. "Depends." The woman laughed, eyes misting. "I just wanted to say thank you. What you did, it mattered. My daughter wants to be a doctor. She saw your video and said, 'She looks like me.'" Evelyn's throat tightened. "Tell her to keep going." "She will," the woman said. "Because of you." As the woman walked away, Evelyn placed a hand on her necklace. She wasn't naive. She knew one case didn't fix a system. Knew one termination didn't undo centuries of trauma. But change never came in waves. It came in ripples, in stories, in names remembered and lessons passed down. She sipped her latte. It was hot, sweet, just right. She looked up at the sky and smiled, not because everything was better, but because she knew that the world had been forced to see her, not just as a threat, not just as a hashtag, but as a woman, a warrior, a witness, and no one could take that away.